Hey folks, Austin here, and this is Jack. Today I'm going to be talking about some things that are either taboo, weird, or illegal in America that seem to be totally normal in Germany and probably a good chunk of Europe. But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Jack? He's from the Asian Pacific, so... Everything I'm going to be talking about today is based entirely on my own experiences, having lived briefly here in Germany and living here in America. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so first thing on the list is going to be the drinking age. So in 1984, US Congress passed the National Minimum Drinking Age Act, which coerced states to raise their drinking age to the infamous 21, and did so by threatening to take away a portion of a given state's federal highway funding. As you're perhaps familiar, all states eventually complied. Crossing the Atlantic, however, in Germany, you can drink beer and wine at the age of 16 and spirits at 18. So big cultural difference there to begin with, but what I found particularly interesting was that at age 14, you can drink beer and wine with the consent of a parent or guardian. I mean, 14 compared to 21, that's a 7-year difference. It's kind of crazy. Also, it was my astute observation that drinking in Germany, well, at least the consumption of beer, was much more of a cultural thing, while I feel in the US it's more of a market and lacks that particular style that Germany has. Like, we don't have purity laws, and for the most part, our mainstream beer is, well, no more than yellow-tinted water. Not that I would know, of course. So fun fact about me, I had never alcoholed prior to coming to Germany, and my first beer ever was a Kolsch in the city of Bonn. Speaking of Bonn, for this one, let's go back to July 2015. It's 6:30 p.m. and I'm lounging on the Bonn University Hofgarten, enjoying einige kalte deutsche Biere with a small group of friends. There are groups like ours all around us, casually drinking, some playing frisbee. There are couples walking in the park. There are children playing in the playground. It's absolutely an incredibly beautiful scene. Unfortunately, not one you'll ever likely see in a public place in the US. Why not, you ask? Because here in America, we have these little legal technicalities referred to as open container laws. Real bummer, believe me, I know. When I got back to America, all the drinking games I was familiar with were optimized for the great outdoors, such as like flunkyball. In truth, I don't think America should legalize public drinking unless it first implements some kind of comparable fine system. I just think the mess would be too great. And also I think American culture in regards to drinking and beer has to first evolve because I think it would just be abused into oblivion if you just were like, all public drinking is legal today. So that's my opinion on it. So this was one of the more surprising things for me when I first arrived in Europe. Considering how progressive Europe seems to be, it really surprised me that Europeans, well at least Germans, smoke as much as they do. I grew up in the US during a time where there were massive anti-smoking campaigns with a constant flow of scare tactic TV ads as well as relentless drug prevention programs in schools. There was really no way you could escape it. When I was in high school, I didn't have any friends that smoked cigarettes, and now that I'm in college even, I only have maybe 1 or 2 friends that do. So I'm hesitant to say it's categorical, but in my experience it seems to be that smoking cigarettes becomes more and more taboo in America every year. So if you've ever been to the grand old US of A, you're probably acutely aware that here in America, we're not as keen on having those fancy bubbles in our agua. Can you buy it here? Sure, but it's not even remotely as popular as it is in Germany, dare I say most of, if not all of Europe. So another quick life story with Austin. When I was on the plane to Germany, it was the first time I had had carbonated mineral water, and I was so disgusted by it that I really thought I was gonna throw up right there in my seat. However, by the end of the year, or like shortly after getting there really, I tried it more and I really started to like it, and by the end of the year, I even preferred it to that regular old boring still water that nobody likes except for people in America. So, in America, it's proper etiquette to keep the fork in one's dominant hand, then pick up the knife, then switch the knife in the fork when the necessity to perform a culinary incision or cut arises. After living in Germany for a year, I find this method of doing things to be highly impractical. I much prefer the German persuasion of keeping the knife in the dominant hand and the fork in the other hand and then just doing it that way. Interestingly enough, I still use my silverware the way you fine folks in the land of beer and bread do. One could even argue it's a habit that I brought back from Germany. Alright folks, well that ends at least the first half of this list. I hope you learned something. Of course, if you didn't and you think you could teach me a thing or two, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. If you're not from the US or Germany, what things from this list, or maybe not on this list, apply to you and your home country? If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Au revoir, Auf Wiedersehen, ciao, goodbye, sayonara, other synonyms for see you later.